Well, Maximo Torero is chief economist at the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. I'm delighted to say joins us now. Are we on the brink of a global food security crisis?
Hi, good evening. We are on a situation which is extremely problematic, but still very uncertain. And the reason why I'm saying this, if it is correct, as you said, that Russia and Ukraine supply 30%, to be exact, of the wheat in the world, a part of that production, of those exports, were already delivered. Today, if we look just at Ukraine, we have 7 million metric tons of wheat to be delivered, which is 29% of the overall exports over the year. And in the case of maize, we have 12 million metric tons, which is 36% of the overall maize production. What this means is that we have a gap of around, in cereals, of around 20 million metric tons. Now, the issue is, can this be covered by other countries, other key exporting countries like the US, Australia, now India is saying that they are going to export 7 million metric tons of wheat, or Argentina. So that's the question right now. And if that is the case, then that can be, the problem can be smoothed out, and we shouldn't go into a significant crisis. The major problem that we face, which is also related, but which already was there, is the issue of the fertilizer prices, which have been significantly high in the last months, and which could be exacerbated significantly because of the energy prices if there is a reduction or if there's an effect of the sanctions on the energy supply from Russia or fertilizer supplies from Russia. That's problematic in the short term, but also especially problematic in the long term because it could affect the supplies of next year. And that could really create a problem to the world supply of cereals and other types of food in the next year.
Let me ask you, which parts of the world are likely to be worst affected here, and which socio-economic groups? It's going to be the poorest people, I guess.
Of course, because are the ones that cannot afford. No, because the prices of food are already going up. The markets has already incorporated this risk of this gap of supply of exports. And the countries which are immediately affected are the net importing countries, which are import from this region, especially from these two countries. And those are North Africa, especially the one which is the most inelastic because of what happened in the Arab Spring is Egypt, but also other countries in North Africa, Indonesia, and Bangladesh. Now, it is also important to say that Bangladesh, for example, where I am right now, has sufficient stocks right now, so they are okay for the next 3 to 4 or 5 months, like Egypt is reporting. But that will depend, of course, how much the conflict will continue and how much, especially, the supply for next year will be affected. So if the conflict destroys infrastructure, the logistical part, the ports, the roads, the elevators in Ukraine, and doesn't allow to move forward for the harvest that is still remaining until May, then yes, we could have a problem, and we could have a serious problem next year because of the planting season, and these countries will be affected. Now, as you mentioned, these countries are starting to look to diversify from where they procure, and they're trying to make arrangements with other countries in other regions of the world to minimize the risk and therefore to become more resilient. But still, I can argue that the situation is tense and depends on what happens in the next weeks, how this will evolve. But the fertilizer problem is more a structural problem that could have a bigger consequence in the future.
Maximo Torero, the UN, thank you very much indeed for coming on the programme and talking to us.